All right. I tried to go live on LinkedIn, didn't work out too well, so we're going to go to YouTube instead. It was working and then it stopped working. Not sure what happened. So here we are. And
All right. I tried to go live
we're
on
going to
LinkedIn.
talk
Didn't work
about
out too well, so we're going to go to YouTube and
let me
instead
mute this.
it was working.
Okay, so we're going to talk about ClickFix. So I want you to imagine this. You get a knock on your door, your home front door, and um the person at the door says, hey, there's a gas leak reported in your home. We need to get in and fix it, or there could be even bigger problems. A gas leak might scare some people, but a lot of us are aware that this is a scam. We know that not to let people in our home. Um, just as a general rule, we don't allow strangers in the home. We might ask for ID. We might call the police to find out. Whatever we might do, we might just close the door in their face. Well, it's the same thing here, except this is the digital world. Now, if you do let the fake gas people, they have uniforms on. They may even have an ID badge. It's not that hard to get those things. And they say, okay, we're gonna go fix it. They go in to fix it, and instead of fixing it, they steal a bunch of stuff, and they may even hand you an invoice when they're done, saying, "Here you go." They take your cash, they take your jewelry, they take your pets and your maybe your kids, your food, whatever. They take it all. It's gone because you trusted them to come in and fix a gas leak. That's kind of what a click fix attack is, but it's in the digital world. So instead of like somebody knocking on your front door and saying there's a gas leak, instead you might be on a Zoom meeting similar to this, and people will say, "Hey, we can't hear you, we can't hear you, we can't hear you." A bunch of people could be saying that because they're all part of the ruse. And somebody puts in the chat here, click this. This will help fix your audio. And you click on it, it downloads something, you install it, and they go, "Oh, great, we can hear you now." Except you didn't do anything because there's no such fix in Zoom. And instead, what you did was install a Trojan horse, or what they call a rat, which is a remote access Trojan. And all the people in the Zoom meeting, or at least most of them, are not even real people. They could be deep fakes. And it's becoming more and more common. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. But you've installed access to your computer now. You've installed an info stealer, which is stealing all of the stuff from your computer as we speak. Your passwords, your credit card numbers, especially if you're storing these in browsers, please don't. Your sessions. So if you're logged into Microsoft 365, for example, you have a session. That session has just been stolen, and now the attackers can log into your Microsoft account and then wreak havoc there. Um, whatever else they could find, tax information, health information, whatever else they might be able to find. And in doing so, they've also installed a way to access your computer going forward. You're not going to know they're on your computer until it's too late. They could hang out, look for other computers to connect to. So let's say you're in the office and there's 50 other computers in the network. They're going to try to get to those computers. They're going to try to see what else they can find. This is called moving laterally. And this is all the result of you not being heard on a Zoom meeting, allegedly, and you clicked a link that somebody put in the chat to fix the audio issues. And so that's the problem. This is ClickFix. And there are other ways this happens. That's not the only example. So let's start with the fact that ClickFix has increased by over 500% in the first half of this year, just over last year. And this is relatively new phenomenon. It's a social engineering attack. They're tricking you into doing something. So instead of sending you an email with a link that says your multi-factor authentication session has expired, not a lot of people were falling for that. So instead, people are doing this and people are falling for it. 500%, over 500% increase since over last year, in the first half of 2025. Here's some of the examples of how they do these things. So Net Support Rat campaign. Again, RAT stands for Remote Access Trojan. Attackers injected malicious JavaScript into websites to display fake browser update prompts. So you're on Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge or whatever browser you use, and you get a prompt that says you need to update your browser. You click on it. You think you're updating your browser. In reality, what you've done is downloaded this net support rat and steal C, which is an info stealer disguised as security fixes. And so now net support rat, remote access Trojan, means they now have access to your computer. Steal C means they're stealing everything they can find on your computer. All of the data they can find on your computer. Everything. Just because you thought your browser needed to be updated. Clipboard-based attacks. So some ClickFix variants use fake CAPTCHAs or verify your browser pages. So you've seen these pages. You go to a website. If you go to nawaztech.com, you may be preempted with a Cloudflare page because we use Cloudflare. And you'll have to verify that you're human. Well, this looks very similar, except it's not Cloudflare in this case. On Nawaz Tech's website, it is. But in these examples, it is not. And the page is copy malicious PowerShell code. I'm going to get to that a little later. To the clipboard and instruct users to paste it, installing remote access tools, probably very similar to the ones I just talked about. So you've copied code, PowerShell code, which is a Microsoft coding platform. All Microsoft computers have PowerShell possibilities. Some people disable them, hint, hint. And they tell you to take that code and paste it into Microsoft to access the PowerShell, and then it's going to install remote access tools. I'm sorry, paste it into PowerShell. They're going to instruct you how to do that into the run line. Microsoft reported campaigns delivering Luma Stealer, another info stealer, via ClickFix prompts with regional focus in sectors like government, finance, and transport. So these are specific targets. One of those being Portugal's Lampion malware. Advanced evasion techniques. Threat actors are embedding payloads using blockchain-based hosting. So think Ether hiding and obfuscated JavaScript to bypass traditional security filters. Now there are some stories going around that attackers have also figured out how to mitigate your security software. Just as a side note, McAfee and Norton not cutting it anymore. You need more advanced security software. But we're going to get to more of that later. So these are just some of the ways that they're tricking people. So you've got fake Zoom fix software. You've got using websites to tell you to update your browser with a fake JavaScript and a pop-up. A JavaScript pop-up is not that hard to accomplish. If you go, I don't see it as much as I used to, but you used to see a lot of websites you would go to and there'd be a pop-up saying, here, sign up for our mailing list. It's the same thing. Okay, but instead now you're downloading remote access software and info stealer software. They're using fake CAPTCHAs. So we all get annoyed by the CAPTCHAs. Well, in this case, they're using fake ones to trick you into running PowerShell commands. And there are tons of other examples out there of how this is happening. So it could happen on Teams, not just Zoom. It could happen on Teams or any other virtual meeting software. It could happen in numerous ways. You might even get a phone call at some point. I said I led off this webinar of sorts with, if they knocked on your front door pretending to be the gas company and telling you there's a gas leak, well, what's to say they can't call you? We've all gotten the fake Microsoft support calls. What's to say they can't call you and do the same thing here? ClickFix. Here, click this link. Open this web page, click the link, download the software, and run it. And that'll fix all your problems. So what do we do? What's the answers? This is we talk a lot about social engineering. at Nuage Tech, because it is the gateway a lot of times, and I would say in the majority of attacks, it is the gateway into a network. So you get tricked into clicking a link in an email, you get tricked into the Microsoft support call or something along those lines, or social engineer. It could be physical, you could be, a guy could be in a brown outfit, a brown uniform, could be walking in with a bunch of boxes into your office and you let him in because you're a nice person. In reality, that's a social engineering. Hopefully it's a test, but it could be an actual break-in, and they're breaking in pretending to be the UPS guy or some other delivery service, and you let them into the building. They didn't need to scan, they didn't need to check in with security, you let them in. These are all examples of social engineering. We've gotten the fake texts, we've gotten the fake emails, we've gotten the fake phone calls. The IRS is coming to arrest you today. These are all fake, and we know it, or hopefully we know it. People are still falling for a lot of these. Gotten the fake romance scams. I've got videos on YouTube about that, of pig butchering. This is just another variation of those things, to a method to steal from you, your family, your business, whatever it could be. All right, so here we go. I gave you a few real world examples. Let's talk about what ClickFix attack is actually, what the definition is. It's a social engineering attack. Okay. It just means that somebody is trying to trick you into doing something that you shouldn't be doing. Is a trick where bad actor pretends your browser or computer needs a quick fix, usually by showing a fake update, error, or verification message. But again, it could be they can't hear you on a Zoom or Teams call or something along those lines. Okay. So these are all ways that they trick you into installing their software. So what can we do? What is the answer here? So one of it is education, and we do our best to educate people. But another answer is zero trust. So if you're tricked into downloading software onto your computer and then installing it, whether it's through PowerShell or through some other method, the Zoom, here, click this link and install the software to fix your Zoom hearing, your Zoom audio. What is the answer? The answer is zero trust. If your computer isn't allowed to run those applications, isn't allowed to run a PowerShell script or install something without a review process and somebody somewhere else, an IT team, reviewing that installation to see what it really is, then the ClickFix attack fails. Right. So I posted on LinkedIn yesterday about how security awareness training and phishing simulation, a lot of security experts say it's a waste of time, essentially. And I'm saying it's not. It's layered security. So yes, we do train everybody how to look for these things. We do make them aware that these things are out there. And then we provide zero trust. And what that means is if you download an application to install it, and then it doesn't matter what it is, you cannot install it on your computer without a member of our team reviewing it first. And we're going to test it in a sandbox and make sure it's secure. We're going to check it against resources like VirusTotal to see if it's secure. And then we will make a decision whether or not to allow or deny it. You just got blocked. Your ClickFix attack failed because you had a zero trust. Deny by default, hence the name of the podcast, by the way. Deny by default installation blocked on your computer. PowerShell can't run because scripts are not allowed either. Sometimes I laugh because sometimes we are a product of our own security here at Tech, and sometimes we need to do legitimate things with PowerShell and it'll get blocked. And so we have to go through the process of unblocking it so that we can do what we need to do. So here are some things you can look for though. If it asks you to paste commands into terminal, runbox, or PowerShell, don't do it. Just never, ever do it. If you don't know how to use terminal, you're not familiar with it, or command line, or the runbox, or PowerShell, these are all different. You see the hacker movies where they bring up this screen where all they're doing is a bunch of typing and you see a bunch of things scrolling across the screen. That's command line stuff. That's PowerShell or command line, or if you're using Linux or Apple, it's terminal. If you're asked to do, and yes, by the way, yes, this does happen on Linux and Apple too. So if you're asked to do those things, just don't, and get a hold of your IT team immediately. Look for things in the branding that might look a little off. So if you, for example, I mentioned the CAPTCHA with Cloudflare. They're using a very similar page, but it doesn't look exactly the same. It looks similar, but not exactly the same. If it looks a little off, maybe skip it, maybe question it. If it asks you to download, run a file from an unknown link, again, the fix your audio in Zoom, don't do it. If the offer shows up in random websites, not from your normal update tool, so in other words, if you're using Google Chrome and a pop-up comes up said you need to update your browser, but the little thing in the corner that says you need to restart Chrome to update isn't there, it's a good bet that it's not real. And matter of fact, I'll tell you, guarantee you it's not real. So don't paste commands into run files. When in doubt, open your browser or app settings and check for updates there. So, Google Chrome, Edge, they all tell you it needs to be updated in the top right corner of the browser. If prompted during work, call IT or your cybersecurity team, or even a supervisor at that point. And if for some reason you did fall for it, isolate that computer, get disconnected from the network and isolate it. Again, we have a process to do that remotely, but in the event you want to take proactive actions, just disconnect it. Keep browsers, operating systems, and security tools updated and enable automatic updates from trusted sources. So Windows updates, browser updates, software updates should only be updated through those channels that they normally update it through. So if you're trying to update Microsoft 365, for example, I haven't seen any ClickFix attacks using Microsoft 365, but it wouldn't surprise me if it happened. That's the software, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so forth. Then it should be updated through Microsoft's 365 suite. If you have an IT team, they should be handling the updates for you. You should not be updating anything. As precaution, we don't update the day the update comes out. We test first, we check other resources to see if there's any known issues with that update, and then we update. We don't want to break things in the update process, as so often happens with updates. Okay, so in short, summarizing here, ClickFix attack is a social engineering attack. It's a new variant on social engineering. They trick you to installing or running commands, installing software or running commands. And then when they do this, they download remote access software so that allows them access into your system and then potentially into other computers on that same network. That's why we use microsegmentation to isolate computers from other maybe more critical network items. And they will also download info stealer software so they can steal stuff off of your computer and again, potentially other computers on the same network. And this happens through fake CAPTCHAs on the internet. This happens through Zoom calls where you're tricked into believing that you don't have audio or something along those lines, and you download this fix. This happens through websites that pop up to say update your browser. with a JavaScript pop-up. Again, very used to be a lot more common. I don't see it that much anymore, where they would ask you for your email address just to add you to the mailing list. Well, they do this with fake updates now. So you get a little pop-up that says, click here to update, and instead you're downloading that malicious software. A zero trust. So there's the education component to protect yourself. That's why I do these videos, and that's why if you are a client, you get updated on these things all the time. I actually sent an email about the rise in ClickFix attacks a few weeks ago to all of our clients. And then the zero trust architecture. So if you have a deny by default policy on all your devices, you can't run scripts and you can't install software. That's it. That's how you block a ClickFix. That's how you prevent a successful ClickFix attack from infecting your computer. Now, there could be ClickFix attacks that trick you into logging into Microsoft or Google Workspace or whatever system you use, or your bank account. I would imagine it's going to happen because, again, the attackers are after information and money. Information and money. If you have one or both of those things, and almost all of us have data, they're after you. It doesn't matter how small or big your company is. I have seen attempted attacks on one-person operations and 150-person operations personally, and we've all seen the major hacks that have happened. So I'm going to wrap this up. Hopefully you get something out of this, and until next time, stay secure.